Our next speaker has over 20 years of experience in complex global and multicultural organizations. And I'm talking about Bruno Tourne, the Global Head of Corporate Communications at Sanofi. He joined Sanofi sometime last year, around June 2023, as the Global Head of Corporate Communications, and he leads internal, external, digital, and science communications. Prior to Sanofi, Bruno worked at Alstom for 17 long years, and he's held several leadership positions. Today, as he joins us at PRAXIS 2024, he will speak on the subject of the role of communications in building the community around the recently concluded 2024 Paris Olympics. Sanofi was the premium partner. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give a very warm welcome to Bruno. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. It's really, can you hear me well? Yes, super. It's really an honor. It's an honor to be in front of you. Thank you, Amit, for the invitation to speak on behalf of Sanofi. It's my second time in India, and I have to say it's an incredible country with an amazing energy. So I'm really, really, really pleased to be here. So we're going to talk about the Olympics, and most importantly, what Sanofi did of its partnership with the Olympics. Maybe before starting that, I would like just to say a few words about Sanofi, because you might not know Sanofi, or maybe some of you have heard of it. So we are the world leader in healthcare industry. Our purpose is really chasing the miracle of science to improve people's life. And you might know or not, but 1 in 5 Indian households has benefited from Sanofi products in the last 7 decades. We are active in medicines, in therapeutic areas such as diabetes, immunology and inflammation, neurology, or rare disease. We are also active in vaccines, like vaccine against flu, polio, meningitis, or recently the RSV, which is a virus responsible for the bronchiolitis for the babies. And we have also a consumer healthcare brand, we sell over-the-counter brands against allergy, cough, cold, and pain, for example. So we are 86,000 around the globe. We call ourselves Sanofians, by the way. This is a sense of family. 30,000 being in India. We have 3 main sites in Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Goa. We are present in 70 countries all over the world through our manufacturing and R&D sites. And we deliver our treatment in 180 countries all over the world. So let's talk about the Olympics now. What did we do with this partnership with the Olympics? So 4 years ago, we were approached by the Olympic Committee to be a sponsor of the Olympic. And it was not a given, to be honest, that we would be a sponsor. We have nothing to sell to the Olympic Committee. We are not Coca-Cola, we are not Accor. You know, what a pharma company, a B2B company could benefit from such a partnership was really not a given. We also cannot make ads about our products in France, so there was no really interest into that. But we had a big things in front of us, which was the modernization of the company. We knew there would be a big transformation going on to Sanofi, and that we would need the entire energy of all Sanofians to make this transformation happen. So the executive committee at that time, I'm sorry I was not there, so I'm telling the story I've been told, but decided to say, okay, let's engage into this partnership, but let's make it fully internal. Like, let's make sure that we use this to make everybody a change agent, a change champion, using the energy and the catalyst that the Olympics represents. And this is what we did. And also we have to say that there's a lot in common between sport and science. You might not know, but for example, when you discover a molecule, 90% of the molecule you discover will never be a drug at the end and will never come to patients. Because in science, you need to test, you need to train, you need to learn how to fail, exactly like in sport. So we thought the parallel was really interesting, and so we entered into the partnership with Paris 2024. So here you'll see a few examples of programs we've did for the internal. So basically, as I said, we are 86,000, and roughly more than 10% of our employees had a direct contact with the games, came to the games, or experienced something with the games. And indirectly, much more than that. First, volunteers. We propose to our employees to become volunteers. Torchbearers. We gave the opportunity to Sanofi employees to bear the Olympic torch. Igniters, I will come back on this program. We invited some people from Sanofi for 3 days during the Olympics and Paralympics. And marathon runners as well. I don't know if you know, but as part of the Olympics, the Olympic Committee did a crazy thing to say that the general public could run on the same path that the real marathonians the day before the real marathon. And this is what we did, and we could offer that to some of our employees, and that was amazing. So I'm going to start with the volunteers, because basically we started with that. And it was, by the way, one of the requests of the Olympic Committee. 2024 volunteers. So this was the number of volunteers provided by Sanofi. 1,012 for Olympics, 1,012 for Paralympic Games. We were the biggest cohort of volunteers from all the sponsors. To give you an idea, there was 40,000 volunteers more or less for the entire Olympic Games. So this means 1 in 20 was a Sanofi volunteer. So each time you were going to be checked for your tickets, you had one chance out of 20 that it was a Sanofians. So it was a big thing. But it was not just about, having them entering into a mission with the Paralympic Committee or the Olympic Committee. What we did is we trained them all through the year before they come to the Olympics or Paralympics. So they attended to webinars, to trainings, they did some first aid trainings, we trained them about storytelling, about how to use social network, and we gathered them the day before the opening of the Olympics, and this is what you see on this picture. We gathered the first cohort of 1,000 people at the UNESCO to really engage them against as Sanofians toward this fantastic mission. And I have to say that I met many of them and they had really a life-changing experience. And I propose we look at a video of what they lived as volunteers during the Games.
Être volontaire, c'était magique. Il n'y a pas de mots pour le décrire. C'est une fois dans une vie et c'est juste extraordinaire.
The moment I realized I was a volunteer is when I arrived to Paris, to the Charles de Gaulle airport. At that moment, it hits you that you're really involved in the Games.
The first day when I got up, I felt like it was the first day of school and just all the butterflies. The moment it felt more real to me was when I actually put on the uniform to go to my mission.
When you are with your uniform, it doesn't matter from where are you from.
We have a community together. There's kind of unspoken bond.
On se reconnaît, on fait un peu partie de la même équipe et on est assez fiers aussi de faire partie de l'aventure.
Le rôle des volontaires, c'est un rôle super important. On a un peu les petits rouages partout dans toute la structure qui fait que ça fonctionne.
Sans les volontaires, ces jeux-là, ils sont pas possibles. Les volontaires sont vraiment au cœur du jeu.
Ça m'a fait comprendre que si on veut faire quelque chose de grand, on ne peut pas le faire seul. Ensemble, on fait beaucoup plus de choses.
My experience at the Olympics has been phenomenal. I just mentally transport myself back to this arena every time. It'll just remind me that I can keep pushing harder.
Être là, c'est le bonheur.
I have seen so much determination and the will to succeed in life. I will feel like I can overcome a lot of more things that I think myself.
C'est l'esprit de paix qu'on voit ici et l'esprit de fraternité.
It's just one word at the moment.
Je repars avec une chose qui est quand on y croit, on peut atteindre des sommets et ça c'est juste incroyable.
I talk to my kids quite frequently and I keep telling them, follow your dreams, go out there, explore the world. I'm doing it now. I wish I had been doing it all along.
So I had one of my team members that was a volunteer, and I can tell you he had a life-changing experience. His mission was at the Olympic Village. His mission was to go at 5 a.m. in the morning to knock at the door of athletes that were randomly selected for doping tests and to tell them that they had to go to the doping test. And frankly, he was an introvert guy and was completely a life-changing experience. And this, we have thousands of stories of that within Sanofi now. The second thing I wanted to mention, which was more French-centric, to be honest, was the torchbearer. So we had also the opportunity to give a unique experience to 300 Sanofians who could bear the Olympic torch. So that was amazing because, this is something you can do probably only once in your lifetime. The torch also came on 4 of our sites, and that was also impressive for all the employees of the site, and we could do big parties on the site, so it was really a great team bonding, great engagement exercise, and we could live stream that all over the world, and it has been watched, and I can tell you it has been extremely successful. The other campaign I wanted to tell you, and this is probably the most interesting, is the Igniters. So what we've done is we've selected 2,800 Igniters. When I said selected, it's not by chance nor by mistakes. It's people that have been selected because we think they have the potential to convey the story, the strategy of the company, the narratives of the company beyond themselves. So what we did is we selected those almost 3,000 people, and they came by wave of 200 people for 3 days in Paris during the game. They could experience 2 competitions, and most importantly, come to our headquarters, visit an exhibition that we created for them with Sanofians to explain to them, okay, what is our strategy, what is our science, what are our values, and to make sure that they convey all those messages when they are back into their country. So basically, there was people from 54 countries all over the world coming every 48 hours in Paris. Some of them were coming for the first time in France. Most of them were coming for the first time in the headquarters. And the idea was to be completely hierarchy agnostic. So those groups were made of very different people, workers from factories, scientists, people from support function, manager. But the idea was to really create this sense of belonging and to create those change agents. And here again, I have a video that you can see what they lived.
Sports is about performance, about ambition, about pushing your borders. And this is exactly what we are doing in bringing innovations to our patients.
I'm a long distance runner. It's same in science and in sports. You have to try and you have to keep yourself better again and again.
These 3 days, they just bring us closer together as Sanofi, one family working together.
Got a chance to meet a lot of people outside of my function.
Meeting our co-workers around the world is so valuable.
C'est vraiment génial de voir tous ces athlètes. Ils ont un mental d'acier, c'est ce qu'il nous faut pour réussir.
C'est super inspirant en fait.
One thing I will bring back is the ambition that Sanofi has.
You need ambition and you need the substance behind it, the science, and the exhibition showed me that Sanofi has both of it.
It was very clear how we are becoming leader in immunology. We saw our pipeline, but also how we are coming there. So we are becoming all in artificial intelligence.
It's put me into a new way to look at whole Sanofi. We not only just focus on science, but also care about our people, our employees, and our patients.
What's really amazing is it shows how Sanofi wants to be part of the world. Not only just giving medicine, but also being part of a change for the better.
We transformed as a company, that's a given, and we're in the right direction.
It's a kind of ignition which has given me a new spark to do something more, better.
I want to share what is going on and how we can build something bigger for the company.
I do believe in the miracle of science, and I think that we show how miracles can be true.
Energizing.
Meeting new people. One Sanofi.
Collaboration and inspiration. Rencontre et partage.
Connection.
Life-changing.
Mesmerizing.
Great, and let's do it again.
We even had 50 people coming from India to this program, and my colleagues, Aparna and Vinifer, had the opportunity to be part of the Igniter, so they can tell you at the tea break if you want what it was in real life. So what we did as well, we created a team of athletes. These are not Sanofians, these are not employees, these are athletes we decided to sponsor, like many sponsors are doing, creating a team of athletes. We had 14 athletes and coaches from Olympics and Paralympics, 7 qualified to the Olympics and Paralympics game. We even got 8 medals, so meaning more medals than athletes, so this is very good. And again, the big difference here is we didn't use them for external engagement. We use them only for internal engagement. So basically, we use them all the year prior to the Olympic to really make sure they ignite the potential of the employees of Sanofi. So they have been involved in trainings, in internal meetings, in communication campaign. Some of them have been visited our site. Some of them have been even coaching some of our colleagues or managers before performance reviews or this type of thing. So they have been really activated as members of the Sanofi family and not really as sponsor, like, we want them to wear a Sanofi hat, but more to really help us to accelerate the change within the company. So they were involved in 30 internal events, and 10,000 Sanofians had the opportunity to meet at some point in time athletes. And even when the Igniters were coming to Paris, the athletes were coming to meet and discuss with the Igniters, and that was a great thing. Of course, what we did is we encouraged all our employees to share that on social media. So we trained some of them. We trained basically 1,500 of these either volunteers or igniters how to tell their story on social media. And what you see behind me is some example of the 40,000 LinkedIn posts we had during the entire Olympics and Paralympics. So 40,000. So the volume is enormous, but this is not really what matters. What matters is the quality of this. What we see is we see smile, we see pride, we see people that are telling story about the company. Through that, they are not only talking about our partnership with Paris 2024, they are showing which type of company we are, which type of culture we are, the values, our science, and which type of work experience people can have if they work to Sanofi. So in terms of employer branding, was also extremely, extremely important. And this has helped us to reach a level of engagement we've never achieved. So what you see here on the left is really the normal level of engagement on social media, and what you see in purple is the level of engagement during the Olympics. So this has basically been multiplied by 7. And this has been done thanks to our people online and our people engaging on LinkedIn. And very surprisingly, or not so, if you look on LinkedIn, we are ranked second behind LVMH in terms of engagement on LinkedIn. And again, this is thanks to the great work of our people internally. And again, this has helped us to reach people beyond the employee of Sanofi. And this ranking is interesting because, of course, we don't have the money of LVMH in terms of advertising, but there's also all the ones that you don't see that are behind us, the Coca-Cola of this world, Orange, etc. All the big sponsors are behind us in terms of engagement on LinkedIn, and we are extremely proud of this. So to conclude, before we go to the Q&A session, I just wanted to share 3 learnings around this partnership and around what we've learned doing this. The first one is the power of the Olympics. There's no such thing as the Olympics. We have all watched the Olympics on TV when we were kids, and there's something which is amazing when you bring people to the Olympics to see a real competition. Like you're creating memories forever. And this group is bonded by this common memory forever, and this is what we wanted to do. Frankly, we were not expecting that to be so big, so emotional. What is also extremely interesting is that we found that discussing with the people, interviewing the people, the impact of the Paralympics has been stronger than the Olympics. Like volunteers in the Paralympics are becoming, for example, completely transformed by their experience. And for us, being an healthcare company, that was also extremely important. So I've never seen something so powerful at the Olympics, to be honest, because we have all organized team building, team engagement around sports, around culture, etc. But Olympics is something which is beyond expectation and above everything. The second thing, what we wanted to say is think big, do big. Those Olympics, and I don't know, you'll tell me at the tea break, those Olympics has been exceptional. They has been extremely iconic. And the work that has been done by the Olympic Committee we were partnering with has been tremendous. And they put the bar extremely high. And we and all the sponsors were really pushed to do things really, really big. And our ambition was really to be all in on internal engagement, so we really went all in. We did really, really a lot of things, bringing 2,800 igniters, bringing 2,000 volunteers is something which cost resources and money to the company. And we did that big because we thought we wanted to create the maximum value of this event, and we went really, really all in on it. Last point, and I think this is probably the most important one, is internal communication, is external communication. Even though this event was fully designed and this partnership was fully designed for internal communication, we leverage it extremely well for external communication because our employees are the best ambassador you can have. And by the way, when I show those figures, like those 40,000 LinkedIn that were done, basically they generated 3 times more reach than everything we've done on our corporate accounts. And I can tell you we've done a lot on our corporate accounts. But the power of the employees, the power of the employee voice is nothing to compare with what we put in our corporate accounts. And I think what they conveyed in terms of pride, in terms of storytelling, etc., was something we could have never achieved through normal corporate communication. And I think that's probably one of the best learnings, that even though we were full internal, there's really a lot of people in France that are talking about this partnership because the reach was beyond the internal reach. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.
No, thank you, Bruno. We've seen Olympics, but to see behind the scenes, that was very interesting. To have a conversation with Bruno, I want to invite Nidhi Gulati, Communications Director at Springer Nature Group. Thank you.
Thank you. What power of community. I mean, I was looking at the topic here for PRAXIS, and I think what Bruno and team have achieved is completely going back to the basics and building a community which they will cherish for life, isn't it? I think that deserves a bigger round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno, for sharing such lovely takeaways, really. And you mentioned internal communication is external communication. I think internal brand ambassadors are the real ambassadors that one can have. So while you were talking, there were a couple of thoughts that were seeding in my head, and I was wanting to understand, Sanofi being a pharma company, how do you connect sports and science, and how did you leverage it at the Olympics?
Mm-hmm. So, as I said, there's really a lot in common in sport and science. There's first the research, like, in research, there's a lot of things you need to try, you need to learn how to fail, you need to learn how to do things several times, etc. So there's a story of resilience, which is extremely important, and that you can find both in sport and in science. And we've done, portrait of our athletes, for example, that we were sponsoring to show this need for resilience, etc. So resilience is definitely one thing. The never settling attitude was also something that that was one of our motto during the campaign. Is basically, in science or in life in general and in business in general, you should never settle. You should always challenge yourself, and it's something that sports and athletes are very good at, and they need to always go beyond their limit, and it's something that we could really use very, very much internally. What I have to say also is there was some values. It's not necessarily sport, but it's also the Olympics that were very close to the heart of Sanofi and to the heart of science. One being diversity, equity, and inclusion. For example, I don't know if you know, but these are the first games where basically the number of female athletes were exactly the same number than male athletes. So diversity, equity, and inclusion was really a strong message from the Olympic Committee, and we took also this message, making sure that, for example, in all our programs, whether it's igniters, whether it was volunteers, there was this objective of diversity in everything we were doing.
That's interesting. Now, you mentioned that the committee decided on the partnership a year ago with the Olympic Committee. How did you start building up the momentum internally? Because obviously one was taking employees to Paris, which was in itself a big incentive. But how did you build up the momentum? You spoke of igniters, you spoke of volunteers. I heard yesterday from you and the team that there was also something called a Sanofi Cup that happened internally. So could you elaborate on that?
So I would say that there was two things to build the momentum, because of course all those programs needs time to take place. So the first thing that built the momentum was the volunteer program, where basically we were asking people to volunteer, to be volunteer, to be simple. So they were sending their application, and this took a lot of time, because we had, as I said, we had 2,024 volunteers, but we had 11,000 applications. So taking the time to review those applications, taking the time to encourage people to be part of this volunteering program was a big thing, and this is how we build the momentum. And a few months later, in parallel, as you said, we decided also to cheer up the company to create our own Olympics. So we create what we call the Sanofi Cup, basically using an app that probably some of you are using, where people could register their sports challenges, etc. And basically, we did a big country-to-country competition where basically everybody was competing on the app. They did some final in each and every country, and we organized a very big, giant final in Paris 2 months before the Olympics, where basically the 10 finalists of each country were coming, competing. There was a parade like at the real Olympics, and we had 7,000 employees within the stadium. So we rented a stadium in Paris. It's an image I've shown at the end. And 7,000 people were watching and cheering the Sanofian athletes. And this was broadcasted live in all our sites.
That's very interesting. You know, the power of amplification, the power of employee advocacy was brought out very, very strongly through this initiative of yours. And you spoke of culture, you spoke of community. Where did creativity come in? How did you manage to, apart from the fact that people were getting a chance to be part of the Olympics and Paralympics, where did creativity play a role as communications professionals, really?
It's a very good point. I think I would say creativity was in the detail. Like, there was, all this, the program was huge, it's about bringing people to the Olympics, but how do you create details that makes this experience completely memorable and something they will never forget? So really, we had to be creative in the way that, okay, this is something that they will never experience twice. So we need, it's very simple, but you saw those lollipops everywhere. Everybody is talking about those lollipops everywhere with the Sanofi logo. And so we had to think out of the box in some aspects, etc. But to be honest, we have also been very much helped with the Paris 2024 organization that was really completely, I would say, creative in the way they have done those Olympics. You've seen the opening ceremony that was not in the stadium, etc. So everything, to be honest, creativity was a bit easy because we were following the creativity of the organizing committee that was really huge.
And you flew almost 5,000 people to Paris.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm sure there was a rigorous selection process internally while taking people to Paris. Out of the 80,000 odd employees that you have, how did you select people who would be going there as volunteers and igniters?
Okay. So volunteers, they had to apply. So it was really an application, and this was, we had very concrete criteria because, what was important is that people that would really complete their mission, because it's very serious. They had to work 10 days for the Olympic Committee, so it was our duty to make sure that they will complete this mission. So we are checking that they were ready to complete this mission. Also, one prerequisite was they had to speak a bit of French. So this is something that we had to test because that was important for the volunteer as well. So there was a selection process for the volunteer, but they were basically sending their application. For the igniters, who are those 2,800 people that we brought to Paris, this was the selection of their manager or the manager of their manager. And of course, what we've done to make sure there's no bias and it's done in a really fair way, if we put criteria. As I said, we said, okay, we want to create this community of igniters. We need 50% men, 50% women. We need to be balanced in terms of level of hierarchy. We need to be balanced in terms of functions, in terms of make sure you don't put only support function or only R&D function. So we put criteria to the manager that they could at the right level of mix, and you had people, very junior but extremely talented, someone with a lot of seniority in the company, so groups were extremely diverse.
Interesting, and since, I wasn't going to ask you as a next question on how did you manage the bias here, but you've already answered that. And you included all employees to create advocacy and amplification externally, but you also mentioned in your talk that you did not use any of the athletes and coaches that you sponsored to externally promote the company and the partnership, but use them internally. Could you elaborate how that worked?
On external communication, you mean? Yeah. So we did very little of external communication, to be honest, compared to what we've done internally, but we've done a few because, again, with the Olympics, you have the opportunity, you have plenty of opportunity to get your known better known. So what we did is we create a campaign that we call whether in sport or in science, we never settle, as I was telling, to draw the parallel between sport and science. And basically, here again, we used our Sanofians. So basically, we did cross-portraits of Sanofians, employees of Sanofi, and athletes to show these parallels that I was mentioning around science and around sport, where you see basically an athlete being trained or falling, and you see a Sanofian not managing, for example, an experiment, this type of thing. So we use this parallel a lot. We used a lot social media, so we did paid campaign on social media in our corporate channel, but again, was much less powerful than everything we did through employee advocacy. We did a bit of advertising in the city of Paris, because we had the opportunity close to the site where basically our athletes were competing. We wanted to show we were there and to support them. So basically, we put some posters and some advertising campaign close to the sites where our athletes were competing.
Very interesting. And you spent a lot of money in the sponsorship and partnership and flying people to Paris and back. What is the ROI of the entire event? And also, not just social ROI, but when I say social ROI, social media ROI, but actual social ROI that you're drawing out of it.
So it's a bit too early to say, to be honest, because the Paralympics has closed 2 weeks ago. It's very soon. But we really want to measure this very seriously. So what we are doing is we have an annual survey, of course, where we survey all the employees every year, and this is happening as we speak. And the idea is to really isolate the population that was activated during the Olympics, whether they were volunteer, igniters, torchbearer, and to see what is their level of engagement. Is their level of engagement evolving differently from people that were not bearing the Olympic torch, for example, to make sure we analyze this population to make sure this has an impact. To be honest, we had very good feedback, very good immediate feedback, but we need to make sure that this engagement, these memories they have created will last, and that they can be really the agent of change we want them to be. So this is really what we are doing. So we are analyzing, and after we will of course animate this community. This is not, okay, you were a community created for the Olympics and now it's gone. We have this type of alumni, I would say, and that will be activated all through their career now as former igniters of Paris 2024.
And talking about sustainability, given that today's times we are all monitoring our carbon footprint very, very closely as organizations, how did you manage the carbon footprint or offset the carbon footprint that was generated with all the travel that was associated with the initiative?
No, it's a very good point. Of course, we tried always to be extremely environmentally cautious. So of course, we tried to avoid goodies, or we did everything with zero single-use plastics, etc. during the entire duration of all the trips, etc. Like Paris 2024 did, by the way. They were very advanced on that front. For the trip, this is true. It was something to bring all those people together. But what we did was to stop other trips. So in order not to increase the number of trips, we say, okay, 2 months before the Olympics and 2 months after the Olympics, let's try to reduce our trips to offset a bit all the trips that will happen during the Olympics and Paralympic Games.
So, one thing is creating ambassadors out of employees through the initiative, but managing an event of this scale, it couldn't have gotten any bigger than the Olympics and Paralympics. How big was your organizing team, and how did you all really manage all of it?
So that's also a very good point. So the thing with Olympics is something you manage only once. So frankly, we basically gave the key to people that have never managed it and maybe will never manage it again. So I think the first thing is dedicated teams. So it's a big, big work. So we had dedicated people. What was also important is scalable teams. We didn't have all through the project the same number of people working on the project. It started with 2 people.
Right.
The day of the signature, there were 2 people full-time dedicated to that. I think at the end, we were 30 full-time people working on the Olympics during the game per se. But so the idea of scalability was extremely important. The idea of being surrounded by agencies that are more used to the Olympics, because it's not really easy to bring big groups of people, bringing 200 people to a venue for the Olympics. You have specific securities that you have only at the Olympics, etc. So you need to be surrounded by professionals that really know how to do this type of thing and manage such event. But I would say really dedicated team that are creative, as you say, like that are ready to go the extra mile, because new ideas and new opportunities are popping up all the time in such a project, and scalable team, because you don't need the same number of people at any point in time in the project.
Wonderful. I think I've been in awe of the initiative ever since you and I spoke the first time a few weeks ago, and you were still at the Paralympics at that point in time. And I see that the first bell has already gone off, so we have just 5 minutes left. I'd like to open the forum to people here, and I see a lot of hands raised, so if someone could just take the mic around.
Hi, thank you very much for that session. My name is Usha. I'm from Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, another pharmaceutical company. And I just wanted to point out a contrast between yesterday and today. We've seen a lot of creative campaigns, largely from the fast-moving consumer goods section. We've seen specific brands being advertised in a very creative way. I just wanted to point out a contrast for the benefit of this room. The pharmaceutical sector is bound by very strict laws. It's highly regulated. You would have seen that there wasn't any Sanofi product, specific brand that was mentioned, because we are forbidden by law to do that. So to see creativity, culture, and community come out in this manner, by building a strong employer brand and by engaging the community and getting employees to get in touch with the science of the company, I just wanted to point out that contrast, that when you're in a highly regulated sector, your creativity comes out in these ways. And I'll leave you with one question. Do you think this will help employee metrics, like help you reduce attrition in the company or something? Does this help? Are you measuring any of these metrics?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your comment, because I really agree, and this was the starting point, like, okay, in a regulated environment, how can we use such a partnership? And this is where we went for internal engagement. Reducing attrition is definitely one of the objectives. As I was saying, we are in the middle of a big modernization, big transformation, so making sure that we keep the talent within the company, whether they are here since a long time, whether they are new, is extremely important. So it's really retention and attrition is something we will look at. And of course, as I was saying with our employee survey, we will look at the retention and the attrition among those specific populations that was activated.
Wonderful.
Hi, this is Girish Surya from AVNV, and thank you, Bruno. Interesting and a very, very grand spectacle of our campaign. And thank you, Nidhi. You kind of stole the thunder in terms of some of the questions on ROI, and Usha just spoke about ROI again. My question is, were there specific goals that were thought of as hard metrics before you decided to become the sponsor for Olympics and Paralympics? It could be output-based, outcome-based, but what were they? I understand you will track employee engagement because it was a big internal campaign. I saw the matrix on LinkedIn in terms of reach, engagement, but I think there's a lot of things that you spoke about, which is sports and science, diversity and inclusion, sustainability, etc. So is there any thought, or was there any thought that before we get into this, these are the 4 or 5 metrics that we will track for brand Sanofi? when we are partnering with Paralympics and Olympics.
That's a very interesting one.
Yeah, that's a good one. So as I said, when we decided to go for this partnership, we were at the middle of at the beginning of a modernization, at the beginning of a new strategy. So the idea was to use it as an accelerator, and everything we done was at the service of this strategy. Will people that are engaged in the Olympics more inclined to adhere to the strategy, to understand the strategy, and to tell the strategy to their people. So this is really the KPI we are tracking through our employee survey, is how well they understand the strategy, all the KPI I would say, of normal employee engagement. And the idea was more to use that as an accelerator. Are those KPI moving faster than the others? So to your point we didn't create new KPIs. The idea was to say, can we use the Olympics as a booster to all the KPI, the usual KPI of employee engagement, retention, understanding of the strategy. I would imagine people that have the opportunity to bear the torch will answer differently to the question, would I recommend Sanofi to a friend than someone who didn't bear the torch? So this is really, no new KPIs, but the objective set by the executive committee was acceleration of reaching those KPIs.
And I think I did hear the second bell. Thank you very much. If you still have any questions, you can always catch hold of Bruno during the lunchtime.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Bruno.
Thank you, Nidhi.